If your boss was an animal, what kind of animal would they be? Would they, for example, be a meerkat, always looking out for what you were doing wrong so they could tell you off? Or, I guess more positively, would they be a meerkat always looking for what you were doing right so that they could thank you and appreciate you? Is your boss more like a teddy bear? Lots of affirmation and coziness, maybe not quite so much getting the job done. I once had a boss who was literally a rhinoceros. Actually, not literally a rhinoceros. That really would have caused all sorts of health and safety issues in the workplace, but metaphorically a rhinoceros with all the results that you would expect. If your boss was an animal, what kind of animal would they be? In our reading, we heard that Jesus describes the people as chickens and Herod as a fox. If I told you I felt like a chicken and my boss was like a fox, what would you imagine? I guess that this is somebody who's dangerous, who's out to get me. And there are leaders who are predators. You know it as same as I do. There are leaders who are out to take advantage of those under their care. There are leaders like Herod. And the thing is, foxes see chickens as food because they're of a different species. They have nothing in common. From the fox's perspective, they're just there to be used and taken advantage of. Foxes want power over chickens. And if there's one word that describes how a chicken looks to a fox, the word is delicious. So here's the puzzle. How is it that foxes get to be leaders so frequently? Because yes, nations have voted foxes into power. Yes, monarchs and generals and emperors have sometimes taken power over nations, unbidden. And yes, parishes have voted foxes into church warden roles, and the Church of England has ordained foxes. And yes, foxes have sometimes become bishops too. Partly it's that foxes are so good at foxing. And partly it's that many people feel this inner need for a fox. And they get frustrated when they have a leader who refuses to take power over them and insists on sharing power with them. There's something in all of us, perhaps because we're anxious, perhaps because we picture the wrong kind of God and the wrong kind of Messiah, that is easily seduced by a fox who claims mastery. So, this is the problem. We're like chickens, and our leaders are often like foxes. What do we need? You might, first of all, think that what we need is a God who'll put the fox in its place, a God who is bigger and more powerful than a fox, a big, powerful kind of fox, perhaps. Better still, someone who can beat the fox at its own game. Maybe we'd prefer a God who's a wolf. God, please be an animal with teeth. But instead of offering the image of God as someone who is invincible and truthful, in this passage, Jesus offers us instead the image of a hen. To the people of Jerusalem, he says, "How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings." Jesus sets himself up as an alternative kind of leader. He says he's like a mother hen. And a mother hen doesn't take advantage of her chicks. She doesn't need power over anyone. And Jesus, this is Jesus whom we declare in the Creed to be true God from true God. Jesus is heartbroken in our gospel reading today that the people of Jerusalem would not allow him to be their mother. Even so, he doesn't force them to accept his way. He isn't that kind of animal. Love that compels is not love. Jesus invites, but he doesn't force. He weeps over those who say no. If you've ever loved someone that you couldn't protect, then you understand the depth of Jesus's lament. All you can do is open your arms. You cannot make anyone walk into them. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Oh, Basildon, Basildon. Oh, Elm Park, Elm Park. Oh, Whittam, Whittam. This is the most vulnerable posture in the world. Wings spread, breast exposed. But if you mean what you say, this is how you stand, and those tears are the tears you weep. So, if we're like chickens and Jesus is the mother hen, what do we learn about Jesus? Well, we learn he's the same species as us. We learn that he protects us. Foxes scatter, but Jesus gathers together. Hens may not be as charismatic as foxes, but I know who I'd rather trust. Do not be seduced by the political strongmen. And now in the continent of Europe, there's the oddity of political strong women as well. Do not be seduced by those who look impressive, but are predators on the prowl. Synod couldn't solve our safeguarding mess. The national church couldn't solve our set some targets and then call that a vision mess, or our tendency to trust the wrong people and belittle the right people mess. I'm certainly not going to solve any of that in this sermon. But healing always starts with the right view of God. You can have your warrior God. You can have your abusive God, your unmoved God, your lone, uncollaborative God. You're forcing us to do what God wants God. Us chickens have a God like a mother hen, like the bird who brooded over the nest egg of the world in the book of Genesis, like the dove that fluttered away from Noah's hand over the receding floodwaters, like the dove who hovered over Jesus as he emerged from the waters of baptism. God has become human, but there is a sense, not the same sense, but there is a sense in which God became a bird. Incarnation and impultration. So, one last thing. Writers on this passage often point out that actually it's not normal behavior for hens to gather chicks under them and hide them under their wings, except in one case, the farmyard fire. If the fire is sweeping through the farmyard, Mum will lift her wings and tuck the chicks safely under. And when the fire has passed, the chicks emerge, safe and alive, from under her lifeless feathers. Now, I don't know if that was what Jesus had in mind with his metaphor of the mother hen. But I do know that Jesus gave his life for our lives and our futures. And I do know that Jesus invites you to gather under his wings today.